What's going on, everybody? This is Mike Goldstein, Stickers of the C.A.N Report, Conditions, Actions, and Need. Got a special guest for you all tonight. This is the Stache Salt guy, Griffin Coiner. Man, I am excited to have you on here tonight. We're going to get into the meat potatoes of what makes Griffin tick and how he came up with the idea of Stache Salt. Guy has got it going on. The product is amazing. His story is amazing. And I just can't be more pumped to have him on tonight, man. The guest list is just growing and getting better and better. Friend, thank you so much, man, for being on here. I really appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm stoked about it. I'm stoked to be here. So it's going to be a good time.
All right. Griffin is the owner, mad scientist of Stache Salt, a men's grooming company passionate about raising standards, giving back to families in need, and making dudes better on and off the job. He started the fire service in 2010 at a volunteer fire department, put himself through EMT school and fire academy before working part-time for a local department in Texas, and eventually working full-time for one of the biggest departments in Texas. After a few years, he was put in a position and asked to lie on some paperwork or risk being sent home without pay, and eventually forced to resign. Griffin was sent home that day, and that's where he thought his fire service career was going to end. He and his wife turned what was a sweet side gig, Stache Salt, into their full-time job and relocated their family to Utah. After staying involved in the fire service through training opportunities, attending conferences, and continuing to support the mission of the fire service, he found himself on a new department in Utah, and after some time, he has found his seat as lieutenant on Engine 71. He and his wife are continuing to grow Stache Salt with a mission to provide excellent products that match the hardworking members and mentality of the fire service. Griffin is passionate about realistic training, remaining a student of the craft, and getting back to the basics of the fire service. Search is the foundation and reason why we go to jobs, and he wants to help promote a culture of service to the citizens over FD member Salty. He is currently serves as a member of the Ambassadors of the Craft Cadre, as well as helping with his local recruit academies. Brother, love it. Love this, man. I'm pumped about your story. Pumped to have you on here. So like we said, let's get into meat and potatoes of it all. Let's start with that story. How did you get put in a position to doubt your career or to make you change careers and possibly worry about getting fired?
Yeah. So, like I said, started out like most people, went through school, started as a volunteer, went part-time after that, went to a small department and was there for a handful of years, and then ended up getting hired with the dream department, right? Big city, lots of fire, super busy, pretty much endless possibilities no matter what you want to do, engine, truck, specialty, anything like that was there for a little while. I was at a good station, the 31 house, which was double company engine truck. Life was good, right? And then I don't know if you guys remember, the world changed a little bit with the whole COVID corona thing. Basically showed up to the station one morning, put my gear on the rig just like I did every day, sat down for some coffee time at shift change. Captain walks in with some paperwork. Hey, today, guys, now everybody has to do this or else. Basically, I mean, double company house, lots of dudes there. 8 on duty at the time, so 16 dudes sitting around the table. Hey, you got to do this now. Well, no. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. And basically, hey, you have to do this or else, basically. I said no. And then what was really, I guess, crazy about it, or just how it all played out, what was told to me is, we don't actually care if you do this. Self-administered. Just make sure your name ends up on this piece of paper. So basically, I was put in a position of do this or else, kinda, but if you want to lie about it, like, we're perfectly okay with that. So I was not okay with that. I'm not someone that's high and mighty, holier than thou, like never made a mistake, never told a lie. I definitely have, but I decided that was not a road that I was willing to go down. That was not a path that I wanted to be on, of being okay with lying, and I said no. So basically, I was told to go get my stuff off the rig and go home. So I did.
Was that a chief order that you had to It came from the top, right? Like you had to fill out
Yeah,
this
so
paperwork.
it came from number one, passed down through all the stations. Like, I think it was just that day of like, hey, by the way, this is a rule now. So before I left, obviously I got my stuff off the rig, threw it back in my locker. Hey, like, how's this going to work? So basically my cap calls our union president and rep and all that. Hey, this is the situation. This is what we got going on. They're sending Coiner home. Like, does the union support him, or what do we got going? A quote from that individual was, "This is a health and safety issue. We stand with Chief, no questions asked." So I was sent home and basically told that I wasn't able to come back until I was either willing to do that thing or put my name on that paper. So
So was this a vaccination paper? Was this to say you had been vaccinated or not been vaccinated?
So it wasn't even to that point. They had made it clear that was the goal. And this was when they started talking about daily nose swabs, right? So you had to walk in every morning, do a nose swab, like a brain swab, all that kinds of stuff, just to even enter the station. And that was the
Yeah.
new rule starting now. So I also looked at all the tests. They were all expired. I looked up all the ingredients and printed out the ingredient list from OSHA that was on these nose swabs. Every single ingredient on there, like known to cause cancer, known to cause cancer, known to cause cancer. So I said, why am I giving myself brain cancer to know if I have a sniffly nose or not? This is not an anti-vax thing. This is not a
That's what I was going to
anti.
ask you next. Was this
Yeah.
because there's definitely a lot of people out there and there's still a lot of people out there, right? That like, vaccines are bad and you're not supposed to have them. They're trying to control your brain and they want to hack into your bank account. I mean, they can do that all they want. They're going to get like 5 cents out of me. So, but that's what I was curious about. Is it was an ethical thing for you? Like, hey, I don't want to do vaccines because they're bad because certain people tell me they are. But it sounds more, it's just like they weren't giving you a choice either way to think about it. They're just like, just do it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm not anti-vax. I'm not like anything like that. The whole point was them making the decision for me,
Yeah,
right?
man.
Like, there was no more freedom in it. There was no reason for me to do it. Like, had I been sick, had I been at risk, like, had it made sense? Yeah, I'm not dumb. Like, I'm not gonna just do something just cause. But
Sure.
the way it all played out and the being asked, not even asked to lie, I was more encouraged to lie than I was to actually do it. Then that was what was like, all right, this isn't somewhere I want to be. And maybe it was just me being petty before I left, but when everyone's still sitting at the table, like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Like, this dude's actually going to get sent home. I
Were
was
you the
like,
only one?
yeah, I was 1 out of 1,000 that said no.
1 out of 1,000?
Yeah, so I
You're
was
the
one
one.
out of
You're
a
the only
thousand.
one that stood up and said, "No, man, this ain't right. I'm going to make a stand because I got morals and ethics, and I'm telling you this is wrong."
Yeah, like I
And
said,
nobody else.
I'm not here to bash anybody. I'm not here to speak ill of the department. I don't want to. Like I
No,
said,
I
I
got
can
you, man.
only
It's
answer.
just
I can only answer for me, and I couldn't, in good conscience, do it or lie about it. But like I said, it was me being petty before I left, of saying, "Hey, this is an interview question that every single person here answered the same way. You're at the fire station, and everyone's telling a lie about something, and you have an opportunity to do the right thing. What are you going to do?" I was like,
yeah, man.
"Everybody here said they were going to do the right thing and tell the truth." Like I said, I'm not bad mouthing anybody. I'm not talking like I could only answer for me, right?
I got you,
So
man. It takes some balls though to do the right thing, and nobody else is doing it, right? That's having morals. Those are the ethics we talk about. Like you just said, like you all took the oath, and you're supposed to stand up. And again, I'm not bashing what anybody else did or didn't do, but that is a good interview question, and we answered that honestly, or at least we're supposed to answer it honestly. And
yeah.
that's some stand up shit, man. That takes a lot of guts to lay it on the line, especially now. I imagine from it sounds like you grew up in Texas.
No, so I actually grew up in Southern California. Um,
Okay.
Moved out to Texas probably like 2 weeks after I graduated. Started working on cars. I actually went to school first to build off-road race trucks. So I was real into Baja type stuff, building chassis, suspension, all that kinds of stuff. Worked at a couple off-road shops before going to EMT school and doing all that. So
So
that's what I
did
originally
you
went out there to do.
Did you do that stuff in California? Did you start your fire education stuff in California?
No, so everything
So you
was
did it
in
all in
Texas.
Texas.
Yeah,
Okay. Wow. So how long did you live in California for?
till I was 18. Yeah, like 2 weeks after I graduated, that's when I left. So
And then you went to Texas.
yeah,
What was in
was
Texas?
there. So my brother played pro soccer in Germany the whole time I was like in school growing up. And when he was done playing soccer, came back to the States, same time I was finishing school. So he's like, hey, I'm moving to Texas. It's a good place to raise a family and start a business. So I was like, shoot, my brother's been gone for all these years. I want to go hang out with my brother again. My girlfriend of the time, now wife, Michelle, um, we've been together since I was 16. She was 15.
Wow.
And she got into the Art Institute of Dallas at the same time. So it was like, shoot, let's go to Texas. Why not?
I love it. All right.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Did you always want to be a firefighter? I mean, I know you talked about the Baja Dream and doing cars and
Yeah.
stuff, but was that kind of like in your mind as well? Like, I would love to do this as well.
Yeah. So I say my answer is kind of like the typical interview answer of like, well, why do you want to be a firefighter? So when I was growing up, my parents were actually in a bad wreck, where they were both pinned upside down. So
Wow.
to give a little backstory to that, my dad was all PD. Like he wanted to be a cop. All his friends were cops. We go shooting all the time. Like everything was PD, right? He
Sure.
didn't know anything about the fire service, didn't know anything about fire, anything. But he said when he was hanging upside down in his car, he heard the rescue tools start, right? Like they didn't have battery tools back then. This is, I don't know, 30 something years ago. But everything,
Sure.
like he heard the power plant start up. And he said at that moment, he knew there was hope. So that always stuck out to me growing up of like, I want to be that hope for somebody.
Right
So
on.
it was something I've always wanted to do. But it was just like, well, I like off roading too, so I'm gonna go build Baja trucks.
And that's a great story, dude. That's amazing. So then you went to Texas and then you
Yep.
put yourself through everything, through the EMT classes, and not familiar with everything about Texas and how you have to go about doing everything. Is that all out of pocket? Getting your certifications, getting your EMT stuff, that's not included in the academy?
Right. So depending on where you get hired, but for the most part, and especially back then, it was like if you didn't show up already certified, they wouldn't even consider you for a job, right?
Sure.
So I put myself through EMT and then fire academy, started working part-time before I was even basically eligible to get hired. So there are places, there's only a handful in Texas at least that you can basically show up with no certs and basically just take the test. And if you do well, they'll put you through everything.
Okay.
But yeah, I showed up. I showed up with everything ready to go because it was more competitive back then, right? Like when I was
Yeah, everybody
testing for
wanted
those
the job.
spots, yeah, when I was testing, there would be like 5,000 people for 20 spots, right? So it was just different.
Dude, that's how long were you on job in Texas before that all that shit happened?
Uh, I think I was on full time about 10 years.
Wow, that's a ballsy move. You spent 10 years, getting yourself acclimated to that department, a big department, and making a bold move like that. How long did it take you left? Now, did you have to sleep on that decision? Like, I can't imagine you just went home and said, I quit my job today, or did you talk to your wife about that and say, hey, this is what's going down. Um, what do you think?
Yeah. To be honest, it was kind of an answer to prayer in a long roundabout way. We'd been growing Stache Salt and trying to figure out Stache Salt and like, hey, are we supposed to go all in on this thing? Is this supposed to just kind of be like a fun side gig forever? What's it supposed to be? And we both came, like, we kind of saw the way things were going with that, with emails and, hey, here's what we're going to try to do. This is the direction that we're pushing, all that kinds of stuff. So we kind of determined ahead of time that, hey, if it comes down to it, that's what we're going to do. And my wife was fully on board. Obviously, we had to walk through that together. I couldn't just be like, oh, by the way, I don't have my job anymore. But in
Yeah.
like a big roundabout way, because I prayed for a long time, like, hey, God, if you want this to grow, Stache Salt, it has to be explainable that only you made it happen. That was my prayer for like 6 months. And then it's always cool to watch people take these big steps of faith until it's your turn. And then he's like, cool, put your money where your mouth is. And I was like, ah, crap. but so, but it was good. But yeah, I called her up. Hey, I'm on my way home. She's like, all right, I guess we're doing this.
Dude. Now, how long have you been doing Stache Salt for?
At that point, I think I was 4 or 5 years in.
Okay.
Yeah, probably 4.
Is business starting to boom at that point?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was like the ultimate side gig, right? We made a little bit of money. We were able to donate. That's kind of always been the mission of Stache Salt, is kind of finding first responder families in need and helping with medical bills. That was kind of how it started. Yeah. So how it actually started was my old fire chief where I used to work got diagnosed with cancer. His family was struggling with the bills. Like just as I started making some tins and started selling quite a few, and I was like, well, shoot, I wasn't trying to start a mustache wax business. Let's just use it to give back to him. So that's what we did.
Sure.
So, and that's still what we do. So we have people all over the country now and families and all that. Like that's still the mission. But yeah, it was never like a, hey, this is going to be our income thing. So yeah, it was definitely
awesome.
scary for a little while, but when you go
how
all
do
in,
you find the families that are in need?
Some of them are just people that we had heard of. Obviously there's a lot on social media and stuff like that. Like I said, the first one was my chief, and I was like, well, shoot, that's personal to me. That's a family that I know, and I'm just going to help just because I can. And I mean, we get asked quite a bit, honestly. Like, hey, there's this need or that need, and I wish we could fill every single one of those needs. Then I hope we can someday. Like everyone that sends in, like, hey, this family's in need, I want to be like, yeah, I'm in. But now it's just whenever we can and it's the right time, we kind of try to step into that need. So
vetting process for that, like if somebody reaches out to you and saying, is it usually somebody doing it for other people? Hey, I know a family who's been hurt by difficult times. They are on this department, or they do this and help their community. They don't know I'm doing this. Can you help them? Is that usually how it goes?
Yeah, usually. Usually people don't reach out for themselves. That's how we know how firemen are. We're the worst at asking for help. We'll just figure it out.
Absolutely.
It's our problem. I'll handle it, right? Which is all
Yep.
the more reason that we have to step in and help each other, because we're not going to ask for it, right? So yeah, normally it's hey, this guy at my department, he or like his daughter just got sick. Is there anything we can do, kind of deal?
Yeah.
And then what'll usually happen from there is they'll kind of give me the story, give me the background, like here's what the need or whatever it is, and then I'll usually reach out to the family and just be like, hey guys, like, can we just come alongside you? Most of the time they're, yes, thank you so much. Sometimes no, like, we're okay, thank you. But for the most part, when someone else, I don't want to say like volunteers them or whatever, but like brings it up that they're in need, people are super grateful. So
that's fantastic. What an awesome mission, man. I honestly, I didn't even know that half of that, to be honest with you. I know you do a lot for communities, but just to give back to that, that's what it's all about. And I love hearing those kind of stories, dude. That's what we should be doing. Now you're doing the Stache Salt thing once you left your job. How long did it take for you to, like, why Utah?
Yeah. So I had no plans to go into Utah. Where I live now, I didn't even know it existed a few years ago. We left Texas. We ended up traveling around in a camper for about a year. And
wow.
The reason for that was I bought some land in Colorado, and we like up in the mountains. I was like pissed off at the world. I was like, F everybody. I'm just going to go build a house in the mountains and disappear and run Stache Salt and just be left alone. And while we were traveling around, just waiting, we were like, hey, let's save up some money and then we'll build a house. While we were traveling around, I actually had a bunch of customers that worked for the department I'm at now. And every time we would pass through like the Salt Lake area, they'd be like, hey man, come stop by the station. Hey man, come hang out. Like they invited the whole family to Thanksgiving dinner. Before I was even there, they're like, hey man, we just got
these were just customers, right? They didn't even know you. They were just customers, right?
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
at that point, they were just customers. Now they're obviously some of my best friends now. But like they'd be like, hey, come hang out at the station. Hey, we just got a forcible entry door. Come show us some forcible entry stuff. So I'd go and just force doors for a couple hours and hang out and be, all right, see you guys later. I'm hitting the road, and just take off. And basically how it worked out, they were trying to recruit me, like, hey man, come work here, come work here. And I told them no for about a year. Like, hey, thanks, but no thanks. Like, I think I'm just the Stache Salt guy now. Like, I did the fire. I love it, super passionate about it, but like I kind of felt like my time was over. And they kept reaching out, like, hey, well, we have part-time spots. So the way it works is like we have full-time spots and we have part-time spots. And hi, buddy. Can you go upstairs, please? Can you go upstairs, please, buddy? Thanks, buddy. Can you tell me after?
Oh,
Thanks, buddy. Love you, buddy. So we
I
have
love that,
part-time.
man. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So we have part-time spots that basically they supplement with guys that work other places. That way no one gets mandoed or anything like that. They're like, hey, just come work part-time with us. I was like, man, I don't know. Like I still thought I was moving to Colorado at this point. And the chief called me. He's like, hey, can you come in and just talk with me? And I was like, sure. So I just went and talked, and he's like, well, the guys really want you to come here. We really would love to have you a part of our department, blah, blah, blah. And I told him, I was like, Chief, thanks, but no thanks. Like, I've been through 3 fire academies now. None of my certs transfer over from Texas to Utah. Basically, like, thanks, but no thanks. And he said, we hire people, not certs. We'll worry about that later. Which
Wow.
is,
That's
that's incredible. Like, that's not any fire service
yeah.
I've ever known. Like, that's not a thing, right? Like, that shouldn't be a thing. But
Bro, that's music to my ears right there.
Yeah. So, but that's how it should be, right? Like we want the right person, and
It should be
we
that
can
way.
get paper certification. Like I have plenty of experience that says I'm qualified, right? But we know how it works. You got to be certified and all that. So they ended up
Dude,
taking
I
me
met the
on.
dumbest people. I bet the dumbest people who have a doctorate. I mean,
Yeah.
they spent their lifetime getting that shit, and they are not street smart. They know how to study and they know how to get that, but they are not street smart.
Yeah. So just because you have a stack of
Wow.
certs doesn't mean you're the right guy. But at the same point, I mean, it could be, right? Like everybody's different, but they basically like took a chance on me, I would say, and brought me in, and they kind of brought me in. It's almost too good to be true, man. Like I couldn't have planned all these things if I tried. Like I'm not that good of a coordinator. I couldn't have like sat down and like planned out all these steps. But yeah, they kind of brought me on, and while so he also like everyone there is a medic, right? The whole Utah Valley is like a very EMS focused area, right? Like just like everywhere, we run mostly EMS. Got to have medics on the box, the whole deal. And I'm a fire first guy, right? Like I came from a department that runs a lot of fire, no ambulance. That's what I want to do is kick in doors and search floors, right? So he's like, well, how do you feel about medic school? And I just straight up told him, no, thank you. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I'd rather be a good EMT than a bad medic. And he goes, well,
Man,
I guess
that's
I can't
solid
argue
right
with
there.
that. He goes, I guess I can't argue with that. Yeah, so they brought me on. Been here a little while now. Ended up taking so our drivers are called lieutenants. So I ended up taking our last driver test, and I made driver, which is my happy place. I love driving, and that's where I am now. I got a steering wheel, and I get to do what's my favorite thing.
Oh, that's awesome. What a story. I tell you what, though, I've never been to Utah ever in my life. I hear good things about Utah. I hear how gorgeous. I see the pictures that you post. I see the beautiful mountains. I just see the beautiful rivers and everything else. And man, it's gorgeous. It's God's country there. I mean, New Hampshire is beautiful too, as we have, I mean, pristine lakes and rivers and mountains, but Utah's got it going on. Plus you guys got great skiing as well. So it's a bonus right there, or snowboarding. But dude, to have a chief say, man, we hire the man, we don't hire the paper. That's worth your weight in gold right there, because we do need more of that. I understand that piece of paper, it's more of like it's a liability, right? Like
Right.
that way, if something bad happens, they can say, well, on here it shows that
he's certified.
Yeah, right. So the liability, insurances, HR, we got to hire these people that say on this piece of paper they can do the minimum requirement. But the more paperwork you get, people usually rely on that, and they pad their chest with those papers, and then you get these paper heroes, and they really can't do anything. Man, that's some solid shit. So you're on Utah. Have you gotten any good jobs there yet? I mean, is it Do you have any like cool stories about being on in Utah? Is it busy? Is it quiet?
So when I got here, everyone's like, "Oh man, you're gonna be bored compared to where you were. Like we don't run as much as they do." And I'm telling you, like my first year here was rocking. Like we had a lot of good calls, bunch of fires. We made a couple grabs on our crew. Another crew made a couple grabs. So we're not fighting it like I was like regularly where I was, but it's definitely not slow. We have a ton of good calls. We have a little bit of everything. We have basically like from the base of the mountain, a big residential, obviously, a whole bunch of commercial, and then a good stretch of highway. So, I mean, we've got a little bit of everything. So we run good wrecks, we run good fires, we run trucks that are into houses on fire with people pinned, like just like everywhere, right? Like all hell
Yeah.
breaks loose everywhere. So,
It usually comes in spurts, right? Like
yeah.
you're dead for like a year, and all of a sudden, the world falls apart. When you talked about you had a couple of grabs, what was that like? What was the? I mean, if you feel like you can talk about it, I'd be curious to hear what the story was. What was the environment? What was some of the things you took out of that experience?
So for the first one, like it was basically that kind of scenario I just said. It was a truck that ran into a house on fire, drove over a dude and pinned him to his bed. So we
Dang.
showed up first on, and basically it was all right. Well, the truck's on fire. We got the driver out, but then we found the dude under the truck. So fighting the fire while trying to extricate him, while trying to not have the building come down, and it was just a lot. So I consider that dude under the truck. That was a grab for sure.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Another one. So that's why I say a grab and not a save on this one. She ended up passing, but it was a house explosion, um, like a duplex that just got obliterated. Um, and we showed up. The lady on one side was up and walking, talking to us, and we showed up second on. First reports was, "Hey, there's still someone missing." So our crew instantly was like, "Let's go." So there was still some of the house standing. There was a basement. There was all kinds of stuff. But that, for me, was probably one of the coolest things because we all like. I'm super passionate about search. I'm super passionate about like people caring about search, and it's not just like this extra thing of if you have enough people, then we'll assign someone. That is why we
Right on.
go. Like
Yep.
the house will go out eventually. I don't really care about someone's attic burning. Like, not that I don't care, right? But like people are what's important. So when they said, "Hey, there's still someone missing," I was like, "Cool, we'll go find her." So we did. But for me, that was the first time that I actually found her and yelled out, "Victim, victim, victim!" And to actually yell that out and then just see a swarm of dudes like, boom, like all the help instantly, like, "Let's get her, let's go." So that was probably one of the coolest things because we teach that, right? Like searching, all that, victim, victim, victim. And as soon as I said that, it was like, it was freaking awesome.
When you found her, was it the first floor, second floor? Where did you find her, and how did you find her?
So the house was unrecognizable as far as like rooms and all that. The area that it was kind of like an elderly neighborhood, right? Like a duplex type deal. No walls. There was a basement, so like half of the floor was blown out. It was first floor,
Yeah.
but half of the floor was blown out. But I was searching through everything and kind of like out of the corner of my eye saw an old like kind of like an antique type chest in the corner. And it sparked in my head like that's something my grandma would have had. So I was like, this must be a. So it kind of I picked up on that cue of like I knew this is an elderly area. I knew kind of who we were looking for. I saw just that trinket of like antique shelving. And I was like, she's got to be somewhere right here. So,
Yeah.
which is another thing when searching, right? Like picking up those little clues of stuff that matters, right? Like I could tell, like I knew my grandma would have something like that, so I knew this lady had to be close.
Sure. You knew she was close. See, seems like visibility was working to your benefit.
Right.
Because you could see what the furniture was. She making it when you were calling out, did she actually answer back, or was it just, you kind of just felt her underneath some items and there she was?
Yeah. She didn't call out or anything. But I found a pillow after that, and that's when I found her kind of just digging through everything that exploded under a wall and everything. So yeah, trying to be sensitive to that for her and her family, right? But
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely, bro. No, I totally get you.
like
That's
under a wall, under a bunch of
yeah.
insulation, but saw that little trinket in the corner, knew I had to be close, and then once I found the pillow, I was like, all right, she's right here.
They tell you ahead of time that there might be somebody in there, or do you just go in and go, hey, like you said, we're in for search. We got to find victims, and we're searching, even though people say, or if there's nobody in there, we're still doing a search. Did you know there was anyone in there, or did family already tell you that?
No, so like I said, it was a duplex. The lady came out of one side. We were second on, and initial reports was there's still someone missing. So
Okay,
yeah, so that
nice,
was I was
love it.
like, all right, game on, let's go.
Yeah,
So
dude, that's some cool shit, man. Because man, there's people that, I mean, for me, 12 years doing this, I get a grab.
yeah,
It's gonna happen someday, but like we say, we always prepare for the unexpected, and that one is definitely a difficult one, having to peel through all the debris to find somebody, dude. That's
yeah.
awesome. And
I
I love the
had
fact that you had that thought of, that's old people furniture. Yeah,
yeah,
that's, that looks like a room that my grandmother would be in. I mean, that's using your mind on that one. I love it.
yeah. So I just wanted to make sure that I don't get full credit for it. Like I found her, but like the whole crew is in there. The whole crew is searching. It's not just me. It's not like a pat on my back or anything. Like it was all of us to get her out, and definitely all that. So I'm not just like, hey, no,
Oh
I'm the
yeah, brother.
freaking
Yep.
guy. I'm just making sure. Like
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not the freaking guy. Like I found her, but like it was all of us. So I just want to say like it's not
absolutely.
me. I'm not super cool or anything. Like it was all of us. So
That's awesome. Because that's what it is, right? We're a team. There's no way. I preach that all the time, dude. Like, the fire service, it can't be one person. It never can be one person. We can't drive the truck all by ourselves and put the fire out by ourselves. Not one person can do that, and not one person can just search the whole building. And you're right, dude. It's teamwork. It always will be a team. You just can't do it with one person. Everyone makes a grab together. So
yeah,
that's solid
absolutely.
shit, man. You and your crew are top notch. So, how did you get into the company? How did you get into Stache Salt?
Well, I talked a little bit about it before. It kind of just started on accident, to be honest. I was actually at wildland training with some friends of mine, and I had a tin of some other stuff. Like, first time I grew out a mustache or whatever, and like my wife got me a tin of, I don't even remember what it was, but we were there, and a buddy of mine was like, "Man, why don't you just make your own?" So I was like, "Okay." So I got home and like Googled some mad scientist stuff and what different recipes are and how to do it all and made a few and was like, hey, cool, look what I did. And instantly people are like, how do I buy it? So I was like, oh, crap. So I told my wife, I said, hey, we need a logo. So I said, it needs a skull, a mustache, and a fire lid. So she came up with the logo. And that was that. Like I said before, I didn't like sit down with this big grand mustache
Yeah.
company plan and like I'm gonna be freaking Stache Salt worldwide. It was like, hey, people started Venmoing me for tins, right? Or like I would bring them to guys at the station, and my old chief needed help, so we're just like, cool, let's just use it to help him. And we've just tried to keep that the mission, and it's just been growing ever since. So
Growing, dude. Absolutely. Is your wife an artist? Did she draw the logo for you?
yeah, yeah, she does all of our like graphics and website, and like she designs all the tins and all the shirts and all the stickers, all that stuff. I'm kind of the idea guy. I just
Mm-hmm.
spout off ideas and then she does some sort of computer magic and makes it come out and look cool. So,
And I'm jealous. I wish I knew how to do that computer. I wish I knew how to do like graphics designing, and I think I'd be making a lot more money and probably have a different job if I knew how to do that stuff, dude. Because I'm always impressed about what people can come up with on their computer. I actually had my daughter draw me up a picture because there was no way I could do it. So she drew it up on the iPad, and she came up with a great idea. It's actually one of my new logos that I have. And hey, draw me. It's so you ever watching Glorious Bastards?
yeah.
You know the bear Jew?
Oh yeah, I heard of the
Yeah,
bear
Donnie,
Jew.
right? So that's I took a bite off of that. So this image that's coming up, that's the bear Jew.
Yeah,
I don't know if you
no,
can
I
see it
do.
really well. So
Yeah,
I literally took the literal version of a bear and a Jew. So that's why you got Shalom and you got the Star of David. But I couldn't draw that. There's no
yeah,
way I could do that. So
yeah. That's
I said to
awesome.
my daughter, take that, my idea. Can you please draw it on the iPad so we can do something with that? So
Yeah,
she
that's
drew it
awesome.
up, and then I sent it over to Jobtown Graphics, and they did it for me. But yeah,
Yeah,
I wish I could
yeah.
do it because I would be, man, I'd be banging out shit left and right on all these great designs. So how do you come up with all the just, I mean, like the scents and the you have so much cool ingredients in your tins. Do you look those up to see what would work out well? Do you ask other people? Like, imagine it's kind of like a fine, like almost like a fine wine, right? Like the scent's got to be good. Like we're wearing that on our lips all day and under our nose, and we got to smell. If it's going to smell nasty, you know, everyone's going to hate the smell, and or your wife's are kissing you, or your dude's kissing you. You never know, but you know, it's gonna. You want to make sure you have something that smells good and lasts long. So how do you come up with those different ideas to mix it and actually smells good and lasts long?
So we kind of we do like seasonal blends, right? So we do like a Christmas blend or like a Valentine's Day blend or St. Patrick's Day or whatever. So we usually come up with like, all right, well, we want something Valentine's, right? So then Michelle and I will sit down and we'll kind of hash out what the like logo should look like. And then once we get the logo looking like, all right, this is Valentine's Day, all that kinds of stuff. There's a party going on out there. But then we'll match the scent to whatever it looks like that way. So sometimes it's a lot of just trial and error. Sometimes the first try, man, that smells awesome. Sometimes like, oh, that's terrible. Let's throw that away and never let it come back. So
Yeah, I mean, because your product, you come up with a lot of cool product, a lot of good designs. Talk about the seventh edition. I just saw the reserve
yeah,
celebration there. You want to talk about that for a little bit?
yeah. So this is our 7th year since we started Stache Salt. That's why we came out with the number 7 reserve wax. I should have had one over here. There. Oh, there. Stand by.
Stand by to stand by.
Stand by. So it's actually all packaged up.
Ooh,
It's kind of hard to see.
pretty.
There's a gold tin in there. It's actually infused with gold flakes, but all these are packaged differently because it's a special one. They're all hand numbered inside. So everyone that gets one of these is going to have a unique number. Some of them are going to have another special gift in there, but it's made with frankincense resin, which gives it a unique hold that a lot of other companies don't use because it's super hard to use and it's a pain in the ass, to be honest. But it's scented with frankincense, myrrh, and then obviously the gold tins and the gold flakes in the wax. So we kind of just feel like Stache Salt is a gift from God, and we wanted to honor that. Basically, just making this wax as number 7, his number of completion and perfection. What better way than just to make one basically saying thank you, Lord, for this gift of Stache Salt,
Love it.
and hopefully people like it.
That's fantastic. That is awesome. I got to ask, what is frankincense?
So the way we get it is in like a resin, basically. So what they used it like kind of like an incense back in the day. So whenever you see on Stache Salt, it's all smoked up and it says hashtag not meth. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing is I'm melting down frankincense resin because I melt it down, get the liquid out of it, which is a super pain in the ass process, like I said, to get the right amount. And that's also what gives it that different color wax than most of the other ones too. So it's like a little pebbles of resin that has to be
Okay.
melted down to be usable. But it is like a incense back in the day.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that you got two cool things going on there. You got your anniversary, you get number 7, and then you have your competition going on there, right?
Yeah.
So I got that. I dented the shit out of it because I'm actually trying to make pictures with it. So like, how can I make a cool picture? And I like put it on my helmet and it kept rolling off, and I put it on my helmet and it kept rolling off. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have a dented ass tin when I'm trying to put it. So I've been trying, man. It's really cool. It makes you think. I love the way people have been contributing to the competition. Man, there's some really good stuff that people promote. I love how original they get with their TikToks or the Instagrams, and you can tell they put a lot of thought into promoting it and want to make sure that they have the best mustache presented. And their Instagram or their TikTok post, dude, it's pretty creative and it makes people think. Like I just said, like we talked about, like I am not that dude. I cannot get that creative. I don't know how they do half the shit that they do, but it's impressive. I don't know if you could say anything. Do you have any front runners? I mean, you don't have to name names, but do you have some people that are on your top in your mind right now?
Well, luckily, the way we do it is I'm not a judge, so
Oh,
I do
okay.
that on I do that on purpose because I don't want to have any bias or like, well, I've been buddies with this guy for a long time or something like that. So we have a panel of judges. So I'm basically like I'm just waiting to see who wins, right? Like I
Yep.
post everything and keep everybody in line and get like the challenges posted from the judges. But I know, yeah, there's people that stand out. There's people that do more. There's people that do less. I try to
Now,
tell
if you do
everyone.
less, does it hurt your chances to win, or is it being judged on your solely on your mustache?
No, so it's not judged solely on your mustache, but it is like, I guess, how much you do the challenges and stuff, I would say. Um, there's not one style, as you can tell, there's like 1,000 different styles.
Yeah.
It's not like you're only going to win if you have curls, you're only going to win if you have a horseshoe or whatever. Like anything goes. I think just the best chance is just having the most fun with it. I think there's a lot of other mustache competitions that are just like, hey, take a picture of your face and stand on stage, and like that's as far as it goes. But the whole idea of this is have fun, um, build community. Like a lot of these dudes end up being buddies. Like, hey, remember last year we were doing this, and like some dudes will do side challenges together, and it's really just to get people out of their comfort zone. Like,
Oh, I love
hey,
that.
we deal with a lot of nasty stuff, right? Like it's just a way to decompress and have fun and just build friendships, really.
Very cool. I've actually already reached one guy. Him and I've been talking off and on. I think I forgot what his handle was. I think it was Mr. Mustache Man or something like that.
Yeah,
And he was pretty cool. Him and I were just bantering back and forth, and he seems like a cool dude. He's got that big black mustache and the
yeah,
little flavor saver there. So I think he's a pretty solid dude. And he reached out and said, nice stash. I'm like, well, it's definitely not yours. I mean, his shit is on point, but I can shave mine now. I've been having it now for a few years, but I remember I shaved it 1 year, and my wife's like, my whole family's like, don't ever do that again because you look stupid without it. So
you're
it's
locked
definitely
in.
here to
That's a good
stay.
thing. It's a good
I
thing.
actually grew my stash out of spite because my former chief hated it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give you a big fu, and I'm growing this stash because I hate you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, watch this.
Show you.
Yeah,
So, dude, I love it. So we talk about too. So you're on the ambassadors of the craft cadre. What's that
yeah.
about?
So Ambassadors of the Craft, it's one of the biggest. I'd say it's probably one of the best engine company cadres out there. Um, so to be honest, I was always a truck guy.
Mm-hmm.
I love truck stuff. I love riding the truck. I like driving the truck. I like all things truck. Came to Utah. I'm an engine guy now, so I've really been trying to learn and embrace and go all in back on engine stuff. Trying to be a student. Trying to be really good at it. I know a handful of those guys through Stache Salt, through different trainings I've attended. From some of our travels. A lot of them were customers. We'd meet up with them, all that kind of stuff. Ended up going to March Mayhem last year, and we were there as Stache Salt. When we go to a lot of these fire conferences, my wife will set up our big booth, and we bring snacks for everybody while they're out there training. We bring all the waters and energy drinks and coffee and whatever everybody needs for the hot days. So everybody calls my wife Snack Mom. So we go out there, and she just kind of sets up as snack mom, and I bring my gear, and I was kind of just helping reset props, mucking out the burn rooms, like just shoveling burn crap, helping reset burn packages. And hey, that forcible entry prop over there, like they're teaching forcible entry and like some search stuff. Like, all right, like I would chime in. My buddy would be like the lead guy on that. I would kind of just go and hang and chime in a little bit and help and reset and hey, but now check this out and hey, now do that, and just started training with them. Started getting reps and just basically being willing to work. Right, just show up I'm not just here to be a freeloader.
Yeah,
I'm not here to know it all, but I do have some valuable experience that I want to share because it does me no good if it's just stuck in my head, right?
absolutely.
So I want to share that with others. Basically, kept in relationship and contact with a bunch of those dudes, and was fortunate enough, basically, to be invited to be a part of that cadre. So, yeah, I'll
Dude,
be
that's
out
awesome.
at March Mayhem again this year. We're waiting to find out if we're going to MAFC to instruct there. The class we teach is fundamentals of a first two nozzleman.
Okay.
So it's basically there's obviously different components, but there's different stations and skills from forcible entry to masking up. We like to push masking up with gloves on.
Hmm.
Mask up, basically quick search, live fire layout, all that kinds of stuff. But then making pushes down nasty hallways and searching while we go and all that stuff. So pushing stairs, pushing hallways, all that. So yeah, I'm
So,
stoked to be a part of it.
um, when you're talking about making the push, are you a big proponent of flowing and moving, or do you teach both, like hit and pit, or?
I think it's just situation dependent. To be honest, most fires I've ever been in, you can pretty much get to it and just go knock it down. There's not
Yeah.
all the Camella or the hook or like there's not all these things a lot of the time on actual scenes that I've seen. Right?
Hmm.
Like for the most part, you can just get to it, knock it down, and all right, let's move on. Um, but I'm a fan of whatever you're good at. Like I don't think there's
Love it.
one way to do. I don't think there's one way to do anything. I think whatever you decide to do it well, and that can be your weapon, right? Like that's the whole idea is it's a fight. So you got to have a weapon, and if you have a couple weapons, like, hey, I know I'm going to be going down and going around a right hand turn. I know that if I'm better holding on my right side to make that outside, like, then yeah, I want that to be my weapon, right? If I know if I'm going
Yeah.
upstairs and I have to go up and go left, all right, well now my weapon is going up and going that way, right? Like
Yeah.
I think it's just knowing what you're getting yourself into and knowing whatever your weapon is and whatever you're doing, do it well.
You nailed it, man. Like there is a way. There's not the way. I was just having a conversation with my family. We were talking about my father-in-law is a retired member for a city in New Hampshire, Nashua, and we talk about stuff all the time. And I was talking to another friend who's also he's a call guy in the town I live in, and talking about the conferences I went to. I said I go to these conferences because I want to learn new ways. And I said
Yeah.
the best part is it's not curriculum based, and we're not being taught of this is the only way that you can fight a fire. You have to use a knee walk, you have to use a Camilla, or you have to use a clamp slide. No. They you have down to earth, solid dudes who are not here to pass or fail. Like you said, they got knowledge in their brain. They want to give it. They want to share it so you can take it back. It is not the way that you have to fight a fire or push upstairs or how to cut a car. It's a way. Please use it as a toolbox. And if you don't want to use it, that's cool. But here's a different thought for you. And I love that because you're absolutely 100% right. We're not going to use those techniques all the time. And, you know, it could be a simple room of contents fire on the first floor and you take a right and boom, there's a fire, you know, and you're going to put it out
Yeah.
without even having to use a special technique. You just turned to your right and you opened up the bail and you put the fire out. And if anyone
Yeah.
ever asked you, what'd you use for a technique? You're just say, I don't know. I turned right and opened up the bail. That was my
Yeah.
technique.
I put the fire out technique.
Hey, I put the wet stuff on the hot stuff, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty much it. But there's a rhyme and a reason to do everything, and I love the fact that you know there's classes outside of our own little bubble to teach those things, and that's why I do love it. And the ambassadors, the craftsmen, that sounds awesome. Is it normally based out of Utah, or is that Texas? Or I've never really knew much about it, or I've never even visited it.
So a handful of the cadre members are Idaho. A handful of them are California guys.
Okay.
There's probably three or four of us in Utah now. So it's kind of a little bit everywhere. Most of the stuff has been in this region so far, Idaho, like for March Mayhem. Um, but yeah, we're going to Atlanta. Hopefully, we have a few other things coming down the pipe to make it a class that basically travels and can go anywhere. So the idea of having multiple cadre members in different places kind of makes it more accessible to everyone, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So the next one that's coming up, you said, is in March, and it's going to be in Idaho, or
Yeah, it's in Boise.
Boise? Okay. So
Yeah,
why is it
so
that you talked about search before? Why is search your thing? Why do you love to preach that so much?
I just feel like that's why we're here. We're here for people, right? Like, it's not that I don't care about houses and property and all that. Like, I've pulled pictures out of houses that meant the world to people, right? Like, their house is on fire and you pull out an old family picture of grandma and grandpa from like the 30s, and like that means the world to them. I'm not saying that's not important, but humans are important, right? Like, life is important. Just to be clear, I would go in and do anything for a dog as well. I think that's super important. That's like, to be honest,
Super important.
I like my dog more than I like most people, if I'm being honest. So if someone said they weren't coming in for her, I'd be
I'm right
pissed.
there, man.
Yeah, but man, I just feel like that's why we're here. I think it probably goes back to why I got into it, is I wanted to be that hope for someone on their worst day. I think the thing that pisses me off more than anything in the fire service is when someone says it's not my emergency. And I absolutely hate that, because it absolutely is your emergency. It doesn't matter if it's your sixth stub toe today. That's the same person that could be trapped in a basement later on a fire. That's the same
Yeah.
person that's hanging out a bedroom window on the second floor. Like, it's the same person, right? So to say it's not your emergency is nonsense. You put the uniform on, you showed up for duty, the bell goes off, that one's mine. So I just feel like when you took that oath, you said, these are my citizens. I will do whatever it takes to protect them.
Mm.
And I feel like there's a lot of people hiding behind safety and, well, it's too dangerous and all that. I was like, well, no shit, it's dangerous. That's why they called us, right? Like, they didn't call their buddies. They called 911 and expect a fire truck full of professionals to show up and fix it, right? Like, we have a
100%.
$1 million truck that we show up in. We have a lot of gear that we show up in. We have breathing apparatus that we show up in, right? Like, we show up as a crew of problem solvers to go handle it. Like, I just think it's nonsense, like, that it's even a question right now of like, well, it's too dangerous in there. Well, yeah, that's why we have to go in and get them out.
Yeah. Yep. And they
So,
don't care that you're a career member. They don't care that you're volunteer. They don't care that you're
no,
part time. They don't see that. There's nothing on the back of our coats that says professional or career. It's literally just says your department and your name. Go in and do the job. They don't care whether you get paid or not. At that time, they only can care about is their dog or their cat, their daughter, their son, their family member, whatever it may be. That's exactly what we signed up for. And like you said, we have all this equipment. Let's put it to use.
yeah, I think professionalism is a mindset. It's not a paycheck. It's not equipment that you're given or a rig that was spec. Professionalism is, I'm going to do the best I can with what I have, and no matter what it takes. So, but it's determining ahead of time. It's not waiting until the bell goes off and then saying, "Ah, crap! Like, that's a crappy part of town. Is it worth it?" Like, no. It says, "I will do that when this happens." That it's being professional, but it's not just that. It's being prepared to do it, right? Like, being good at it. That is what makes it possible, right? Like, you can't just show up and expect to be good at it. You have to practice. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be able to look at windows and say, that leads to a bedroom, or like, that is like a second story that it's just going to drop back down to the living room. Like, that's a bathroom. I'm probably not going to try to go in there, or whatever it may be. Like, you have to be able to be good at the job, right? It's a lot safer if you're good at it, and it's a lot more fun if you're good at
That's it, man. It's a lot more fun if you're good at it. And like you said too, like it might be that patient you've taken for the seventh time in a row, but you know what? If there's a fire in that house or that apartment, you've been there 7 times in a row. You now
Yeah,
know the ins and outs of that whole building. So now if you need to make a rescue or that search and conditions and visibility is not beneficial, boom, you know that place. You know where that door is going to be. You know where that window is going to be. Those are things I think where complacency definitely seeks in because, like you said, it's going for another stub toe, and you stop thinking, you stop using your mind because you're just tired and pissed off because now you're taking this person for the umpteenth time for something stupid. Well,
yeah,
and then when the time comes, you are going to remember that, and they're on that balcony is going to be on this side of the building, and I know this exit's going to be over here, and I mean I love it, dude. Like that's what we get paid for or not get paid for, but we signed up to do it. And a
Yeah.
lot of people, and that's always I get on my high horse. I said it last time I was talking to on this platform. There's a lot of people in this world that would love to do our job, that they look up to us. They idolize the shit out of us. And it's an odd and weird feeling when you think of it that way. Like there are people that consider us, like idols because we wear the gear and we do these amazing things, even though we don't get to do it on the regular. They wish they
Yeah.
could do it. And then we piss and moan when we have to do it. It's not everybody that's
Yeah.
pissing and moaning, but there's some people that piss and moan, or you definitely have some micromanagers out there that say, no, the conditions are not favorable. Well, how do you know? You haven't been in that building yet. There is survivable
Yeah.
space. We got to go find that space and we'll confine that victim.
Yeah. Yeah. No wonder it's bad. That's why we called, or that's why they called. And let's get in there and check. So
Absolutely. 100%.
yeah,
We
one of my
cannot
favorite
just,
quotes. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead, bro.
I was gonna say one of my favorite quotes is Benjamin Franklin. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Right. So yeah, prevention. Right. Being aware on all these EMS calls, where we take the same stairwell up to the third floor of this apartment complex. Like, all right, well, how many steps was it? How many right turns was it? What type of staircase was it? Like, all right, these houses that we go to all the time. All right, I know if I go in, I can. There's a walkout basement, or just like all those sort of things of just paying attention. Like, don't be complacent. It's easy to do, right? Especially 3 in the
Sure.
morning, man. Like, this is not a real emergency, but to them it is, or else they wouldn't have called, right? Like,
Yep.
we know it's not, but they don't think about it like that. They expect a bunch of superheroes to come up and fix it, whatever it is.
Exactly. Yep.
So
yeah, and then we got hazards too, like right. You there could be a house that this guy builds his own. He presses his own ammo in the basement,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
that happens, and it happens a lot. Like if you go in that
Oh,
house
yeah.
and you happen to see a lot of firearms in that house, and you see a pressing machine, well, I know I'm gonna have a hazard in that basement, a big hazard in that basement. So I know what to expect. Or if he's gonna have some kind of safe room, or just those are the things we should always keep in the back of our mind. And I think we do a pretty good job, but I think sometimes we do get tired, we do get complacent, and I think also micromanaging does get in the way of us performing actually good searches, because either they're impatient or they just don't let you have that mindset of, I'm going to go in there and do the job that our citizens has paid us to do. Because God, man, I don't want to be in that position where we couldn't save somebody when we could have, because we were scared. I mean, that's just how the best way I
or
could put
because
it.
it was too dangerous, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's, I mean, oh well. Like, I have
that's
no
it.
desire to be reckless. I have no desire to like have a death wish, right? Like, I want to go home, but I took an oath that says I will go. So like, that's not like some hero stuff. That's not some macho stuff. That's just, hey, we said we would, so we have to.
Absolutely, 100%. Do you think, since we're talking about it, do you think things have changed, have gotten a little more reluctant to do some of those kind of work, as opposed to say 20, 30 years ago? That wasn't, the NFPA. I don't want, NFPA is not necessarily a bad thing, but I think that definitely carries into a lot of the mindset of our upper staff when they think about safety, and they think about protocols. But do you think back in the day, say 30 years ago, was that on their mind? I think I felt like it was more like hard chargers. They're go in there and do what I'm paying you to do. Don't come out till you get something.
Yeah, I feel like probably as a whole, it was. I don't even like the word aggressive. I actually like don't like that word at all, because I feel like it's just, that's just what it's supposed to be, right? Like, don't call it aggressive. Like, it's just the job. But I feel
Sure.
like it was more just accepted of the risk back then. Maybe um, I'm sure there was probably places that did more, and there was probably places that did less, just like anything. But I feel like, especially with the internet and social media, that it's so easy to find um, the squeaky wheels now. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? I feel like it's so easy for everyone to have an opinion one way or the other now, that could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. And I feel like there are a lot of places that do a lot of good and that want to do a lot of good. And maybe there's someone in a position that didn't let them on a specific fire and then it blows up, or who knows what the circumstance is. I feel
Sure.
like overall the people want to do the job. I feel like overall the people have accepted of like, hey, this is what we signed up for. I think a lot of the things being told about why we can't is fear based. And I think a lot of that comes from lack of experience or lack of education, just lack of actually doing it. So I think when you haven't done something or you haven't trained on something or you don't know the actual statistics or how to do it, then it's easy to say it's scary and dangerous. But the most, like I've been fortunate enough to be around a lot of great people that are very educated, that take it seriously, that care to educate themselves and their crews and people around them. That like, if you know what you're doing, it's not really that dangerous. It's way more dangerous to go work a wreck on the interstate. That
100%.
sounds
Yeah.
like I would 10 out of 10 go into a house on fire than go work on the interstate.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
Yeah. Like, I mean, because half the time you don't see that shit coming.
yeah.
And
So
once it
I
hits
mean,
you, there's nothing you can do about it.
yeah. So it
So, I mean,
comes
there's a
back
big
to
difference.
knowing buildings, knowing windows, knowing ways out. How many stairs did I climb up? Or am I on the second floor? Did I go left? Did I go right? Like for the most part, you can be pretty educated. Yes, bad stuff happens, right? Like you can't control everything, but for the most part, like I said, if you know what you're doing, it's a lot safer. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so
And also, I
I
want
think
to
a
make
lot of that
sure,
is fear based.
I think so too. And I also like to make sure I'm clear for everybody else. Like, I don't want history to repeat itself. So I'm not saying like 30 years ago, we're learning our lesson from things that have happened years and years ago because that's how we learn. So obviously, I'm not saying continue to do the same thing we did in the old school ways because obviously, when people die, we have to learn from that. You know, I'm not saying like let's not forget about our past and forget our history. Let's learn from it. But I think we've gotten to the point at certain junctures that we get a little, like you said, a little scared about what the elements are going to be inside that structure or the job. And would love to see some of that come back a bit of just like, let's be firefighters. Let's kick some shit in,
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
why
And
we show up with all that gear and experience, right? Like,
yep,
yeah, the citizen, Johnny Citizen can't breathe in there, right? That's why I show up with a mask and an air tank on my back
yep,
because I can. Like, no, we can't walk through fire, right? Like, we're not going to walk through fire, but yes, I can go through smoke, right? Like, that's why I have all this stuff on. I can go through smoke. I'm not going to go through fire, but I think a lot of it is fear based or just lack of experience,
we experienced.
which is fine, right? Like, not
Well,
everybody
that's I
works in
think what
Detroit,
happens too
right?
now, man, is that we've now become to an area where we're not getting the same experience that we did back in the day. Like the fires are different and fires are less. And I think that because we're getting less of those, that hinders that experience level. And so when that shit hits the fan, um, you're kind of the certain people are going, I didn't sign up for this. I never experienced this before, and that's an awakening right then and there. Unfortunately, on that spot because live burns are not going to prepare you for that, right? That's just fire behavior. You're sitting in a controlled environment. You're watching fire roll over your head. You got a hose line in your hand. You know it's coming. You know it's expected. And if it's too hot for you, the instructor's going to get you out. You know, you know, all that environment is safe. Open up a door to a structure, and now you're going to have to perform and search without a hose line and go into an environment that's dark and scary. That's that old shit moment for some people who've never experienced it. And that's kind of that make and break, or am I going to perform or am I going to go running for the hills? And you know, those are the people like we don't want that to be their test right then and there, but we're getting such less of that experience. Unfortunately, that's when we find out what are you worth.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I know we're not going to get into tactics and all that kinds of stuff, crazy style. But to that same point, like when you look at statistics, right? I think it's 45% of victims are found in bedrooms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lawyers know this. They've been hammering people. Well, windows are the most direct access to bedrooms, right? And if we know that's where half of people are found, why are we not going directly to windows where bedrooms are? If I walk, like we said, if we walk around a house I can walk around the 360 of a house. I can know like, all right, that's a living room just based on windows, right? Based on layout, windows, chimneys, like bay windows, all that kind of stuff. You can say this is a kitchen. That's a bedroom on the first floor. That's an upstairs like living room. That's a bedroom, whatever, right? Like, okay, now go to the front door, right? So if I say, all right, that third window to the right on the Charlie side, if you go in the front door, do you know exactly how to get there? No. Like you probably walk in, like go 10 or 12 feet, and like maybe there's a hallway off to your left, and then there's a stairwell, and like maybe there's a bathroom door, and now I got to go up these stairs and make a U-turn, and like hopefully maybe I can get there pretty quick, right? Like, or I know that window goes to a bedroom. Why would I not just go right in there? Like
Mm-hmm.
to the being scary and all that kinds of points. Like, all right, well I can take that whole part out and just go
Yeah.
directly where I know the people probably are. So I don't know. Like, but I know VES, window
We just
initiated.
gave
Like
search a cool name. That's all we did. We
those,
just gave search a
those are
name. I
all
mean, it's a
those are
search.
scary. Those are scary terms and scary acronyms, right? Like search over everything. That is why we go to jobs, is to get people out of the environment. So yes, everyone wants to spray water. Yes, it's fun to push hallways and push stairs, and yeah, it's cool when it's hot and you burn up your shit and you're like, yeah, high fiving dudes. Like, yes, that's fun. We want to do that, but we go to house fires or for whatever fires, whatever job for people.
Yes. Nailed it. Nailed it, brother. I love it. Love it. So, do you have anything else coming down the pipe for besides March? Is there anything else going on? Any other trips, any other trainings or events that you got lined up?
Yeah, I was actually just fortunate enough. I got invited to go to the Bearers of the Oath in Georgia coming up in February. So that'll be cool. I'll be there speaking one of the nights and just helping out with hot classes. It's a week long. It's going to be a whole fireman extravaganza. So it's going to be awesome. So yeah, I was just fortunate enough to be invited to come do that. So I'll be there in February. Will be March.
Nice.
We'll be making our way out to FDIC in April. I'm not going to have a booth this year. We had a booth the past few years, but I'll be there just schmoozing and backpacking and handing out free stuff and stickers and swag and hanging out with the boys and seeing what's up with everybody. And we'll
Love
have a
it.
mustache competition at the Indy Metro Fools Brotherhood Bash.
Dude, that's going to be
So
a good one. That's
yeah,
good. That mustache competition is going to be epic at that one. That's
yeah,
for sure. There's
oh
going to
yeah,
be a lot of lip hair there.
yeah. So that'll be fun. Yeah, I mean we've got cool stuff all year. So stay tuned.
Good for you, brother. That's awesome. That is so cool. I actually was just talking to Shane. I'm hoping I can make it. Financially, just it's sometimes it's tough, to be honest
Yeah,
with you. Like,
absolutely.
just for everyone else in the real world that can hear this, is we pay out of pocket for a lot of these events that we go to. A lot of these firefighters, they're paying out of pocket, whether for registration, hotel, airfare, food, a lot. It could be almost $1,000 for us to go to these events, not just to hang out and drink beer and pat each other on the ass. This is networking. This is brotherhood. This is sisterhood. This is to get skills and reps in. This is to get outside training that we're not going to get in our own state. There's instructors there that are top notch, and they're teaching us from real world experiences. They're not teaching out of a textbook. So we go to these events, we go to these trainings because we want to make ourselves better for the job. We want to make ourselves better for the community that we serve in. So when the moment comes, we're better equipped, we're better prepared mentally and physically. These trainings do test us physically. I have so much appreciation for firefighters that go to these events. You think about it when you think about conferences and and symposiums or trainings. You think about suits. You think about like air conditioning and people just hanging out and by the poolside. But here we are in full structure gear, sweating our asses off, putting ourselves in the most uncomfortable environments, and we do it willingly and with smiles on our faces because we know we're making ourselves better and we're testing the limits of ourselves and our family and our members, and we come back, we bring that knowledge and experience with us. So I give all the credit for the firefighters that do that. I give a huge amount of credit to the wives and spouses and kids that let their moms and dads and brothers and sisters go to these events for either 3 days or a week, missing birthdays or missing, family events, or, they're missing work as well. Some get paid to miss work. Some people don't. People work on swaps and earn time, and it's not easy. So just for the people out there who don't know about these conferences, they're a hell of a lot of fun. You get a lot of experience. You meet great people like Griffin here. I love the fact that you're going to be teaching at Bears of the Oath. Do you normally do presentations there, Griffin, or is that something new for you?
No, that's going to be completely new. I've never been, but yeah, I talked with Shane the other day and got the invite. So yeah, I'm super humbled. I don't consider myself anyone super special in the fire service. I'm just a dude that enjoys doing it. I've been fortunate enough to get some good real world experience. And like I said, it does me no good if I just keep it all to myself. So I'm
Yeah,
no one special. I'm just a nobody from nowhere that enjoys doing it and getting better and helping other people get better. So yeah,
I
I'm
love it.
excited to go be a part of it.
I hope to meet you in person. I do hope to attend that conference in February if I can get out there and see what I can finagle. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you being on here. I love your story. I love your product. I hope I can see more of you and hear more of you. I'd love to know more about your presentation that you're gonna have at Bears of the Oath. So again, hopefully I can make that. I know that's going to be a top-notch presentation. If anyone has any interest, Bears of the Oath is coming up in February. Registration's open now. There's different classes. There's hands-on classes. There are lectures as well. You don't have to go to the whole week if you don't want to. Shane Bentley is a person you want to reach out to. He is an extremely humble man. He's doing these conferences because what I just said. He wants to make us better. He's giving back to the fire community. He's a man of faith. He's a man of God, and he loves us like family. And if you are struggling to make a payment or you can't afford to go, reach out to Shane. He flat out said to me, the one word we don't like to say is no. So if you really want to go to something like this and you're struggling, but you really want to make this training, reach out and talk to him. He's a man that he won't turn away and say you're not worth his time. Other conferences coming up is the in March is the ambassadors cadre. They're coming up in Idaho, and then also I always give a shout out to Dadgum. That's coming up in May. Registration will be opening up soon. Dadgum conference with Kevin Pfluger, Tom Hollick. That is always a badass time, and I learned a lot from that. So please visit those. We have an FDIC, but that's super expensive. Not everybody could go to. That's like Disney World for firefighters. It is fun. I've been there once, and yeah, it's a blast, but it is super expensive. So be prepared for something like that. But brother, I appreciate the hell of you. Thank you for giving me your time. It's really an honor to talk to you and know more about you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, man. It's always good to talk shop and just get everybody excited, share the story. Like I said, I have no desire to be cool or like, hey, look at me. I've just, like I said, I've had good experience and some bad experience. But yeah, I think we all get better by learning from each other. So I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you so much, man. So we got Griffin Coiner from Stache Salt. He was coming at you here tonight. I appreciate you, man. Stay right there. I'm just going to end this. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to the C.A.N Report. Till next time, Nozzle Tov.